Operation Ditch Paul Manafort. Now White House says Putin-linked campaign chair was just hired to count delegates and Trump's no more responsible for his old clients than who he played with in the sandbox. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said there is no way the Trump campaign can be expected to know everything about its staff, after a bombshell report that campaign chief Paul Manafort got paid $10 million a year by a pro-Putin Russian oligarch. Spicer dismissed the work Manafort did to promote Putin from 2006 to 2009 as work from a decade ago, and indicated Trump didn't know about it. "What else don't we know? Where he went to school, what grades he got, who he played with in the sandbox," he said, arguing that a campaign can't possibly know everything about its staff. Spicer also tried to walk back his own earlier comment that Manafort had a very limited role in the campaign, both acknowledging Manafort's actual role, then diminishing it. "Clearly I should have been more precise with respect to Paul's role," he said, after being asked how being the campaign's top official was such a role. He responded with precise dates, saying Manafort got brought on March 28, 2016 to oversee the campaign's delegate operation, got named chief strategist May 19, and his relationship with the campaign ended August 19. Manafort ran the campaign for several months. "He was hired to count delegates, which he did successfully," he said. "He was hired to do a job and he did it. He did it fine." Spicer noted that Manafort did the same thing for previous GOP nominees. "In the past decade he had a client," Spicer said. "I don't know what work he was doing." But he described it as impossible to know everything about the backgrounds of a campaign staff, even as he admitted Trump's was lean. To suggest that everyone knew everybody's background, did they pay their taxes? How much deduction did they take? Isn't realistic, Spicer said. "I don't know what was on his forms or what not was on his forms," he said, pressed about what Manafort did and did not disclose to the campaign. "It's not that Paul wasn't truthful," he added. He also pointed to Hillary Clinton's failed reset with Russia, and said the Clintons had much more extensive ties than Trump. "The president has no personal financial dealings with Russia," he said. "His ties are limited to hosting a contest in Russia once, and in selling a Palm Beach home to a businessman in 2005, and that's it," he said. Trump went to Moscow for the Miss Universe pageant in 2013, and sold his Palm Beach mansion to Russian oligarch Dmitry Rybolovlev in 2008 for $95 million, $13 million more than the most expensive Palm Beach mansion on the market at the time. Spicer said earlier Wednesday it would be inappropriate to talk about former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, following a stunning report that Manafort got paid millions to promote Vladimir Putin on behalf of a Russian oligarch. Spicer's mum stance is just the latest effort to put distance between the former top campaign official and his Russia ties, after earlier calling his role helming Trump's campaign as minimal and limited. "It would be inappropriate for us to comment on a person who is not a White House employee," Spicer told NBC Wednesday. Manafort never followed Trump to the White House, having gotten axed from his leading campaign job following reports about his Russia ties, which included doing work for a pro-Kremlin Uranian political party. On Monday, Spicer was even more dismissive. "There's been a discussion of Paul Manafort, who played a very limited role for a very limited amount of time," he said. Manafort ran Trump's campaign for 5 months. Spicer's comments came after a bombshell Associated Press report that Manafort secretly worked for Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska to promote the government of Russian President Vladimir Putin. He got a $10 million annual contract from 2006 to at least 2009, AP reported, citing a person familiar with the work and business records. The work a decade ago involved advancing Putin's interests and pushing a strategy to undermine anti-Russian sentiment in former Soviet republics. Manafort broke his silence through a spokesman on Wednesday afternoon to say he had never worked for the Russian government itself, and that his work for Deripaska had never been secret. "I worked with Oleg Deripaska almost a decade ago representing him on business and personal matters in countries where he had investments," his spokesman said in a statement to CNN. "My work for Mr. Deripaska did not involve representing Russian political interests," Manafort said in a statement his spokesman provided to CNN. In a separate statement he said, "I have always publicly acknowledged that I worked for Mr. Deripaska and his company, Rusal, to advance its interests. For example, one of the projects involved supporting a referendum in Montenegro that allowed that country to choose membership in the European Union, a measure that Russia opposed. I did not work for the Russian government." Once again, smear and innuendo are being used to paint a false picture. "I look forward to meeting with those conducting serious investigations of these issues to discuss the actual facts." The revelations come just days after FBI Director James Comey revealed the FBI is investigating links between Trump campaign associates and the Russian government. "I have been authorized by the Department of Justice to confirm that the FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, and that includes investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russia's efforts," Comey at a House Intelligence Committee hearing Monday. White House counselor Kellyanne Conway also has made statements diminishing the role of former Trump campaign aides and associates who may have Russia links. On Tuesday, while appearing on Fox and Friends, Conway said that Carter Page, a one-time campaign foreign policy advisor, and J.D. Gordon, who served as a national security advisor, were fringe players whom Trump doesn't know personally. "I have spoken directly to the president and other senior officials about this," Conway said. "He doesn't know these gentlemen. He didn't work with them," she said. The FBI and two intelligence agencies concluded in January that Russia sought to undermine the November election. The White House has denied any collusion with the Russians took place. Page and Gordon are reportedly targets of the FBI investigation, along with former Trump whisperer Roger Stone. In the case of Mr. Page, Mr. Gordon, some others, they really have very attenuated contacts to the campaign that I managed for the last 3 months, Conway said.